Congrats to the person in the top pinned comment. As you know, in our reviews this week, we've been giving away some games. Those are the names and the games. If you'd like to win free games and other bits and bobs, then make sure you're subscribed to the channel and leave those normal comments. All shiny new things. We all like shiny new things, don't we? And today I've got a new section that if you're familiar with the channel, you'll kind of understand. And if you're not, you'll think you've arrived in a very strange place. We're going to have our 10 main sales games. And then following that, we're going to have the SwitchUp Savaloy selection. Which are 5 more games, roughly, that are all less than the price of a Savaloy. So if you're after a real bargain, make sure you stick around to the end, and I will include images so that you understand what on earth I'm talking about. Our Eshop credit discount was due to finish, but because the membership side isn't quite set up yet, they've given us another 7 days. So if you want to save yourself 5%, use code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. You've got until next Sunday. What are the best games on sale, and what is the SwitchUp Savaloy all about? Well, let's find out.
We'll begin by looking at a game from the sponsor of today's video and their upcoming release on the Switch, Curse of the Sea Rats. This is a hand-animated Metroidvania which follows the adventures of a cast of swashbuckling pirate rats. You will embark on an epic journey of 4 prisoners of the British Empire transformed into rats by the notorious pirate witch Flora Byrne. To recover their true forms, they will need to fight dangerous bosses, uncover the secrets of the vast Irish coast, and ultimately capture the witch who cursed them. The hand-drawn style is inspired by classic cartoons and is laid atop the 3D environments to create a 2.5D experience. You'll have the freedom to explore 18th century Irish coast and navigate a non-linear map comprised of more than 300 rooms and passageways, and will discover 4 playable characters, each with a unique playstyle, with which you can play either alone or with up to 3 friends in local co-op. There are new abilities and skills to unlock as you play to help you take on the large cast of bosses and complete your quest. Curse of the Sea Rats will cost £16.99 and regional equivalents would have been on the bottom of your screen, although there is 10% off of this price available if you pick the game up just before its launch date of the 6th of April.
The timestamp for this section is appropriately called "How many times do I want to buy this game?" Yes, because Skyrim has been purchased far too many times and it's been sold too many times, but it is still brilliant. Now, the excellent Zephos Gaming actually was the only video source I could find for this to show the improvement they made for the Anniversary Collection. I'll pop a link to his channel in the description, but as you may or may not know, the Skyrim Anniversary Bundle has a ridiculous amount of the modded content and other expansions they released. Loads of new quest lines, but when it came out on Switch it had a real bug in that the frame rate couldn't reach 30 FPS. As you can see, that's now completely fixed. It's a much better experience and it's well worth picking up at its sale price if for some reason you are the one person that doesn't own multiple copies of this game. Then we've got Full Metal Furies, which is 90% off. It could certainly have been one of the Savaloy selections, as it comes in at a ludicrous £1.49. This is one of the best co-op games on Switch if you're a fan of local co-op with a friend. Each of the different classes has different abilities. I always like to play as the sniper, but it has almost a beat-em-up feel. But then there's this map where you can choose the next direction you go in. It's really cool, this, very cool indeed. It feels a bit more like an RPG. It is quite challenging, but for that price, it's, essential pickup. That's Full Metal Furies at 90% off. I recently reviewed Rogue Legacy 2 on the channel, but the first game is currently 86% off, down to a ridiculous £1.53. If you're not familiar with the gameplay mechanics, this is a roguelite, and you start as essentially a new descendant of the same family each time you play through. You'll go on runs, unlock new items and gear. I mean, I did prefer the sequel. It kind of revises and improves every element, and plus I prefer the visuals of the sequel, but this is still a really solid outing. It has a measly 249 megabyte download and is developed and published by Celador Games. That sale goes on until April the 4th. Doom Eternal's actually seen a load of patches since it came out. As you can see from the footage of my review, it was quite blurry, and it's still not perfect, but it's more than good enough, particularly if you play in handheld. This one has a 67% discount, but it is a chunky 33 gigs. So you're going to have to make sure you've got enough space on your SD or micro SD card. It does feature gyroscopic controls, and it's a pretty good implementation. It's a lot more vertical than Doom 2016, but it keeps that momentum-based combat, so you have to move forwards, use melee attacks, and that ID Tech 7 engine does a good job. Now, as I say, it's had expanded content. They've added in, I believe, some maybe new DLC. There was definitely a new mode added in, and that sale goes on until April the 13th for Doom Eternal. LEGO The Skywalker Saga once again has gone down to a new lowest price, at least here in the EU region, but we've got 60% off on the eShop over here. It's funny hearing about this one because there was so much crunch that went on behind the scenes, and that's been the case for a lot of the LEGO games in honesty. TT Games haven't had, well, the developers at least, haven't had an easy time of making these. There have been some seriously big expectations on them, all kinds of reshuffling within the company, but regardless of all the rubbish that's gone on, they have created, in my opinion, the best LEGO game that's ever been made. Big open world, free traversal of all these different planets, a ludicrous number of different characters available, and full co-op mode, which is just so much fun, and you can ride around on banthas. But yeah, there's not much more I'd want really. The footage here is shown from the recent patch, and they keep adding into it, fixing bugs, and yeah, seems like a lot of love went into this. It's just £19.99 until April the 3rd. That's LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Personally, I think Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope is underrated. Like, I gave it, it was in the 90s, it's an absolutely brilliant game. For me, it improved on every aspect of the first title. The control was better, it had almost like a Mario Galaxy style adventure mode, and the turn-based combat as well was improved, with every character really fleshing out their skill set, and it feeling like you needed to rely on all of them to complete the missions. But yeah, it just, for whatever reason, it doesn't feel at least like it's sold as well. I think maybe someone said on Twitter about the first one went on sale so deep that it almost devalued the franchise. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but there is potentially some merit in it. But anyway, it's now 50% off. Oh, the irony. And if you're slightly interested, do check out our full review because I think it's brilliant. Again, I think there's a discount on the physical version for the American regions, so go and check that one out. It all fits into 5.9 gigs, and that sale goes on until April the 10th. I can't remember who it was, but we had a sale on Bloodstained Ritual of the Night quite a while back, and then someone in the comments was like, I missed it, can you let me know when it comes on sale again? And I was like, yeah, of course, and it just popped into my head when I saw it today. Now it's currently 60% off, down to £13.99, and it's a really solid game. Despite a few little technical issues, there's still some lag in the later stages and things like that, but if that's not something that particularly bothers you, they have fixed the majority of the problems. There was an issue with input latency. It is quite challenging, like I got smashed by the first boss, but it's also quite fair. They're regular checkpoints. There's quite a bit of freedom in terms of the traversal of the different maps. It's a bit of a treat for Metroidvania fans, and it fits into 7.2 gigs. That sale goes on until April the 20th. I know I don't stop banging on about how much they patched up Ghostrunner, but they patched up Ghostrunner so much. It was such a state when it came out, and I was so disappointed because katanas are awesome, ninjas are awesome, and katana wielding ninjas in the future, well, as you can imagine, it's quite awesome. This now runs flawlessly at 30, it looks much better than it did, and it's a heck of a lot of fun to play. Just be warned, it doesn't have gyro. I mean, I don't know if it would suit gyro, it probably would, to be honest. So a pro controller is the control method of choice here, because you've got to be quite precise with your movements. Now this is currently 60% off, that goes on until April the 20th. It's worth noting that there's a physical as well that you can usually find for quite cheap. It's 11.2 gigabytes, and that sale for Ghostrunner goes on until April the 20th. I absolutely love the Touryst. It's probably one of my favourite games on Switch. Is it the best gameplay ever? No, not really. Is it the most beautiful game? No, definitely not. But I do still like the art style. There's something else about it. It has, I don't know, it almost reminds me of, I've said this before, it reminds me of Little Big Adventure, but it's not actually, in terms of gameplay, much like that. It's more a feeling. You know, sometimes you get a feeling linked to a title that you can't really articulate. And the Touryst was just brilliant. I love the freedom. I love the feeling of whimsical adventuring that you don't often see in many games. And also the unnerving twists that took place. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. For £12.59, it's 30% off. It matches the cheapest it's ever been. And that sale goes on until April the 13th. It also is only a very small download, and it comes from the amazing Shinen, who created one of the best futuristic races on Switch. 5 points for if you know the name of it. Alright then, hidden gem time before we look at the new list or the new section, and it's Superliminal. Imagine a first-person puzzle adventure that plays on mind-bending illusions almost, that feels like Portal, mixed with Oh, what's the name of that game where you play as an employee and he gets up every morning and you have to go to the computer? I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a mixture of those two games and it works really well. Is it the Parables of Stanley or the Stanley Parables? I think that's it. It comes from Pillow Castle, the developer, and it's not the longest. I mean, you're looking at around 3 to 5 hours, but if you want to find all the secrets, you could spend quite a bit longer. But it just blew my mind. I remember when I first saw I think it was on Twitter, the developer showcasing this, and I was like, wow, that looks amazing. And it does, it just works perfectly. Now, as I say, it's half price at the moment. I do like supporting little indies, and I think this is a nice one. That sale goes on until April the 9th, and it's 50% off on Superliminal. Alright then, here is a picture of an English Savaloy. Now, once upon a time, this beautiful red sausage... Oh my goodness, this beautiful red sausage costed, it used to cost about £1, right? But not anymore, it's now £2.50. So, as I'm sure is the only logical option, we're going to create a new section of the video, SwitchUp's Savaloy selection. And it's a few games that have to be less than £2.50. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? If you wondered if I was losing my mind, I think this answers the question. First up, we've got Limbo and Inside separately. They're 90% off at the moment. Some of the best side-scrolling adventures that have that lovely monochromatic art style that almost looks like a silhouette. These are really nice games. They managed to tell an immersive story, but in a minimalist way. This War of Mine, I believe, is in the US region sale at the moment at a hefty 95% discount. Very harrowing, based around the events in Sarajevo, and obviously mimicking a lot of the events we're seeing in this world at the moment. You'll be in control of, sometimes it's a family. You can create your own characters as well, I believe, and you're trying to help them survive a war-torn city. Super Epic has a great name, and it lives up to it. You play as a llama who can partially fly, I think, if I remember correctly. Has some Metroidvania elements, is a whole lot of fun, and it's 90% off, less than the price of a Savaloy. I tell you what else is less than that price, and it's the Oniken Unstoppable Edition, which includes both of the games, Oniken and Odorless. Glen reviewed one of them, and he really enjoyed it, so for both of them to be 90% off, down to £1.79 or your regional equivalent, that is a bargain of the highest order. Like that is, wow, you could almost get 2 Savaloys for that price. Then, almost a hidden gem. It's Lichtspiel, which is like light spear, and it's a really simple premise, as you can see on the screen, but it works very well, very addictive, an absolutely bonkers and banging soundtrack, and an enjoyable game. Then we have Boreal Tenebrae Deluxe. I haven't played the Deluxe Edition, I've played the base game, and it's very unusual. It feels like riding that dragon dog from the Neverending Story through the world of Donnie Darko, and that is that is the feeling it gives you. If you haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, I'm very sorry. That's you're clearly not getting the references, but it's unusual, macabre, a little disturbing, but also has that intrigue that you get from looking at something that maybe you shouldn't. Yeah, I like this one. And that is the end of it. Now, do make sure you pick yourself up a Savaloy from your local chippy, because they are a great sausage. But I hope you've enjoyed the new section. Save yourself 5% on any of your eShop credit. Thanks to all of you that just enjoy these videos for whatever reason. You might just be at work, trying to avoid doing any work. You might have a tough week and come sit down on a Sunday evening and think, do you know what, I'm just going to chill out. No one can have my attention. Mark and I are going to talk about Savaloys. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, well, what did you think? Let me know down in the comments. We are giving away free games, but hopefully you enjoy the content regardless. Make sure you save yourself 5% on your eShop credit, as I say, using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. And a thanks to our members and Patreons who support us each and every month. It's what means we can carry on doing it. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch Up. Cheers, guys. See ya!